Okay, let's unpack this. You've likely heard the buzz around semaglutide, right? It's
Yeah.
everywhere, often hailed as this powerful new tool for health and weight management.
Mm-hmm.
But what if the whole conversation we're having about it, what if it's missing the real core of what's going on?
Yeah, the deeper level.
Exactly. What if it's less about just a medication and more about a truly transformative human journey? Today, we're diving deep into insights from Dan Hollis. His perspective, it really goes far beyond just losing weight.
That's right. And our mission here for this deep dive is really to shed some light on how semaglutide, yes, it's a powerful tool, no doubt, but understanding its real impact, that means looking way beyond the number on the scale.
Okay.
Our sources, Dan Hollis's manifesto, these personal narratives we've looked at, they reveal the story unfolds in the mind and your identity as the body changes. So we're going to explore how this tool can kickstart this process of, emotional recalibration and even identity reassembly. It's big stuff.
It really is. So Dan Hollis, he just fundamentally shifts the whole paradigm, like right from the get-go. He argues pretty forcefully, actually. This is not a drug journey, it's a human one.
Powerful.
Yeah. He emphasizes that semaglutide doesn't just change your body. It alters how your brain thinks about hunger, satisfaction, even reward.
Right. The whole feedback loop.
And what he finds striking is that for many people, this shift, it can be incredibly liberating, sure, but also, and this is surprising, kind of terrifying. Why terrifying?
Well, a core insight Dan offers is this radical reframe of willpower. The idea that you just need more willpower.
Yeah, we hear that all the time.
He basically says that was never the actual problem. He explains how biology, these deep-seated emotions, these ingrained habit loops, they're often just stacked against people. It makes willpower almost, irrelevant in that context.
So it's not about feeling willpower.
Not primarily, no. His alternative isn't just try harder. It's about finding genuine insight into why you do what you do, building effective external structures around you, and using tools that actually meet your biology where it's at, instead of, fighting this constant uphill battle against yourself.
And it's not just the internal battle, right? It's also about the speed of the change itself. Dan points out that losing weight really fast can actually become a kind of trap if you don't have what he calls metabolic pacing, which is basically just making sure your body adjusts healthily.
Right, needs time to catch up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Losing weight too quickly, he warns, it comes with risks, like your metabolism slowing way down, losing muscle mass, which you really don't want.
And poorer long-term outcomes, yeah.
So his focus on sustained pacing, it's there for a reason. It's about building something that actually lasts, not just a quick fix. Which I think brings us to this really crucial dimension that often gets completely overlooked in the rush for physical results.
The emotional side.
Yes, the emotional and identity journey, the stuff that unfolds after the pounds start to come off. Dan Hollis, he really believes this is emotional weight as much as it is physical weight.
That's such a key quote.
It is. He highlights how often we eat, not from physical hunger, but, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, maybe overstimulation, or just lacking support.
Right.
And semaglutide, powerful as it is, it only really addresses the physical hunger signal. It doesn't touch those deeper emotional triggers.
And that raises a huge question for anyone on this path, right? What happens if those emotional needs, those triggers, just stay there unaddressed? Dan emphasizes that without real emotional support, without guidance, relapse is incredibly common. It's almost expected. So his whole system, it's designed specifically to walk people through that emotional recalibration that happens when food suddenly isn't the go-to coping mechanism anymore.
Okay, this all sounds, profound, but let's make it really concrete. Dan shares this incredibly striking anecdote from his quiet window field notes. It's the story of Adrienne.
Ah, yes, Adrienne.
She was just doing her normal routine, brushing her teeth, looks up, and she just doesn't recognize the woman in the mirror.
Wow.
Even though she'd lost the weight successfully, she knew it was her reflection, but she told Dan, I didn't feel like I belonged to her. It wasn't triumphant. It felt like a disappearance. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, this is one of Dan's most, I think, striking observations, and Adrienne's experience just perfectly illustrates it. It's what he calls identity lag.
Identity lag. Got it.
As he puts it, your body can change faster than your story, and when that happens, the soul gets confused.
Oh.
Right. Most people think the hard part is losing the weight, but Dan reveals the real crisis, the real struggle, often shows up after the physical change. All the old rituals around food, maybe around hiding, they dissolve, and the person is left feeling, profoundly unrecognizable, even to themselves.
So Adrienne wasn't mourning the weight itself.
No, not really. She was mourning the familiar version of herself who carried that weight, the one she knew how to be in the world. That identity was dissolving.
Wow. And what really resonates in her story is Dan's approach, his compassion. He didn't rush her, didn't give her those empty platitudes like, oh, you look great, you should be so proud.
Right, which can feel so invalidating.
Exactly. He just listened. He provided this quiet space for her to process this really unexpected grief and disorientation,
Yeah.
and then he offered this insight. The weight loss is just the clearing. The becoming takes longer.
So simple, but so deep.
It sounds simple, yeah, but the impact on someone like Adrienne must have been huge, right? Just
Yeah.
being seen in that moment.
Absolutely. And that understanding, that validation, it then led to this really powerful process Dan calls rewriting the names of things.
Rewriting the names, what does that mean?
It means they worked together to reframe core concepts that were holding her back. So what felt like shame started to become just memory. What felt like needing control shifted towards curiosity. And discipline, which can feel so harsh, transformed into seeking alignment. It's about changing the narrative internally. Adrienne's journey really became about giving herself permission, permission to not know who she was right then, permission to be awkward in that in-between space.
That's huge.
Yeah, permission to build a new story without feeling like she had to burn the old one down completely. It just underscores how vital that internal work is, maybe even more vital than the physical change.
And this brings us, I think, to another absolutely critical point Dan Hollis makes again and again. The real work, the deep work, it truly begins after the medication.
Yes. Crucial distinction.
He's super clear that semaglutide isn't like a permanent fix by itself.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a solid proactive plan for stopping it eventually, those old patterns, the old appetite signals of those deep emotional triggers, they tend to come back.
And sometimes with a vengeance.
Yeah.
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, one of Dan Hollis's most impactful statements really nails it. Semaglutide doesn't fix you. It gives you space to fix yourself.
Gives you space.
Exactly. He uses this great analogy of semaglutide being like good lumber.
Okay.
It makes building the house possible. It's fantastic raw material, but you still have to do the work of building the house. The lumber itself isn't the finished structure.
That's a great analogy. And it forces you to confront something maybe much deeper too, right? Dan explores this idea that hunger isn't always just physical. Often, it's a kind of stand-in for something else entirely.
Yeah, like meaning or comfort.
Or escape, yeah. He says, when the cravings stop, the truth begins.
Oof, yeah.
But what's startling about that truth, he warns, is the grief and disorientation that can pop up when food, which for so many people was, the plan, the rhythm, the escape hatch, when it's just not needed in the same way anymore. What do you mean by, the grief?
Well, it means that when food no longer fills that emotional space, the space itself becomes really apparent. The void, you could say.
Ah, okay, you feel the gap.
You feel the gap. And this is precisely why Dan stresses the vital role of community, of support. He believes pretty strongly that most people don't fail because the medication doesn't work. They fail because they were alone.
Wow. That's a powerful statement.
It really is. It points to this profound need for external structure, for genuine human connection, especially when your internal coping mechanisms are fundamentally shifting. You can't just, take away a crutch without building new strength and having support systems in place.
That quote, your body changes faster than your identity. It really hits hard every time I hear it. And it's the very reason Dan talks about building scaffolding. And he's not talking about motivational talks or just temporary pep rallies. He means building what he calls neurobiological replacement structures.
Okay, that sounds complex. What does that mean in practice?
It's basically about creating new brain pathways, new automatic responses. Think of it like new internal habits and routines.
Ah, okay, like
But-
actual practices.
Yeah, things like mindful rituals, establishing consistent rhythms in your day, daily routines that become the new default when the old food-centric ones fade away. He states it really firmly. Support isn't optional. It's neurobiological scaffolding.
So it's structural, not just emotional fluff.
Exactly.
Which is why Dan's whole model, it's really so much more than just a weight loss program, isn't it? It's truly a human architecture story. His focus isn't on just quick results on the scale. It's on helping people rebuild their sense of agency, their ability to act, helping them reframe the meaning they attach to things and relearn momentum in their lives. It's about creating sustainable change, really, from the inside out. holistically.
And all of this, it leads us to this fundamental challenge, doesn't it? How do we even redefine what winning looks like on this kind of journey?
Right. What's the actual goal?
Yeah. Dan Hollis offers this really profound redefinition that just sticks with you. This journey isn't about eating less. It's about living more.
I love that.
It's not just about subtraction, it's about expansion, addition, living more fully.
And that right there is key to long-term success. Dan unpacks this beautifully when he says, weight loss is biology. Staying there is narrative.
Biology versus narrative, okay.
Yeah. This powerfully explains why so many people unfortunately rebound. They succeed with the biology part, they lose the weight, but they never actually rewrite their internal story, their narrative of who they are, how they operate.
So the old story is still running in the background.
Exactly. They just sort of go quiet for a while. But that old narrative, those old patterns, they quietly creep back in, often unnoticed until it feels too late.
And what's truly remarkable about Dan's role in this, as guide, is that he doesn't seem to shout advice or give you a strict checklist.
No, not at all.
Instead, he kind of walks beside you, asking better questions.
Yeah.
He wants you to ask yourself these things.
Like what kind of questions?
Well, like, what happens when your body stops screaming for food, but your soul still wants something to chew on?
Wow.
Or what if the weight wasn't just physical, but historical, emotional, maybe even familial? Thinking about the roots. Getting deeper.
Yeah. And maybe the most provocative one. What if semaglutide is less of a prescription and more of a pause button? A chance to reflect.
A pause button
Yeah.
that reframes everything. Ultimately, Dan's powerful observation, I think it crystallizes the entire journey. People don't relapse into hunger, they relapse into confusion.
But infusion, not hunger.
Right, which reinforces his core belief that this whole process, weight loss, weight maintenance, it's truly about narrative reassembly.
Right.
It's about the crucial process of refinding your own internal compass, your own sense of direction in a world that throws so many conflicting signals at you. It's really about building a new, more authentic inner home.
So thinking about all this, what does it all mean for you, listening right now? We've taken a pretty comprehensive deep dive today, and it reveals that the story of semaglutide, it's just far richer, far more complex than a simple medical fix.
Absolutely.
It's really a profound call to engage more deeply with yourself, with your identity. It shows us it's maybe not about starting over, but about, as Dan says, starting right. And maybe as a final thought, something to mull over. Think about Adrian's quiet shift, from flinching at her reflection to just being able to stand longer at the mirror. Just stand there. If your own reflection has ever felt more like a stranger than a home, well, maybe you're just in a really significant part of your own story. Learning how to truly belong to yourself again.
Belonging to yourself.
Yeah. The old hunger, whatever form it took, might be quieting down, but maybe, just maybe, something more honest is arriving.
Something more honest is arriving. That's a hopeful note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope understanding these nuances helps equip you to be truly well-informed, far beyond just the headlines.